It doesn't mean that if you come here on some kind of work visa that you're going to be able to apply for amnesty and you're going to be able to stay here forever. Think about the 532,000 people from Haiti, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela that now are getting the word, sorry, those little special visas that Biden gave you, we don't even understand why. Like, what was that? 532,000 people? I mean, I guess you're sending them all to New York, putting them up in hotels. I guess that's about increasing your gerrymandering skills because now you get a bigger population center. You get a few more representatives from New York. Is that the idea? I don't know. I think it's very suspicious, though, on top of which, of course, you had New York looking to put 800,000 people into eligibility to vote that were non-citizens until the appellate court struck it down. I mean, this is kind of wild. You have to understand and think about their motivations, but we're going to go back to the laws, and not, as Kristi Noem well said.
My only question to you, I'd say a question back to you is, which laws in the United States should be enforced and which ones shouldn't? I mean, my job, here's the deal, guys. My job is not to pick and choose which laws we enforce and which ones we don't. We have laws in this country, and they matter. If you want the law changed, go to Congress. When's the last time you went to Capitol Hill and told your senator or representative to change it? That's what they need to do. This is the perfect time for Congress to make a decision on how they want people in this country to be able to have an opportunity to come here legally and to fix this. We, as law enforcement officers and as a national security department and agency, my job is to uphold the law, and that's what I will continue to do.
Well, you know what? Here's the reality of it. Look at this. Naturalization Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. The Congress shall have power to establish rule of naturalization. Okay? Like, it's not that hard. It's just not that hard. And yet they're trying to make this seem like the federal government is the bad guy. The federal government is the boogeyman. You're seeing it over and over again, including, for example, on none other than that lovely show that should be canceled, but somehow miraculously survives, The View. Here's Ana Navarro speaking. I want to show you this, guys. You know, Ana Navarro has been in this country something like 2 decades, but she's still got one heck of an accent. I'm kind of wondering about one of you guys was mentioning that in the chat just yesterday. Here she is.
This is horrible. What's happening is horrible. If you are out there in the Everglades, driving out there and getting out of your car to take a picture like if it was the Eiffel Tower, you are a racist and you are a horrible human being. And, you know, I don't think... And by the way, there's like Cubans who are legal permanent residents who are in that detention center right now, because this is not just about undocumented immigrants. When you are taking away temporary protective status, when you are putting legal permanent residents in detention and deporting them, when you are threatening U.S. citizens that you don't like, that you're going to take away their citizenship, naturalized ones, when you are talking about birthright citizenship and taking that away, this is not about going after the criminals and the gang members. This is about making America white again and otherizing everybody who is an immigrant. Because think about this, just think about this. At the same time that they are rounding up Latino immigrants, brown immigrants, they are opening up the doors for white South Afrikaners fleeing from a non-existent genocide. And so look, this is about, I think, 1, deporting people, and 2, scaring people out of this country. That is why he said, you know, he has sent people to a gulag in El Salvador, disappeared them, a gulag where people only leave if they're dead. That is why he's using military personnel in LA to go into parks where children are playing, to terrorize people.
And why are Republican congressmen putting up with this?
Because they're a bunch of cowards, as is Marco Rubio, whose grandfather had a deportation order at a time. And I wonder, you know, and Marco Rubio, and I'm going to speak to Marco because I've supported him. He was my friend for so many years. Damn it. He built his career on railing against the dictatorships in Cuba and Venezuela and Nicaragua. And he is standing in complicit silence as this administration returns people to those cruel dictatorships.
Well, also utilizing his being of immigrant family members as something too loud and like build it off when he ran. Those were things he said. I'm from an immigrant family, so he rose up on that.
Aren't the Trump kids also from immigrant families? I mean,
they're all
their
from
mother,
immigrant families. Melania is a naturalized citizen. Is he going to take her citizenship away? I don't know. But I want to say one other thing about following the money, because I think that you made a good point, Sarah, because who built and is making money off of Alcatraz? Republican donors. They invested millions to elect congresspeople, to elect Donald Trump, and they are getting rewarded. Democrats are saying this was a pay-for-play scheme. That's what Alcatraz is also about.
They weren't done. You know, CNN also is having a bit of a meltdown, but these people are just not done. They cannot get their heads around the idea of actually having law and order. I want to go back to Obama. Remember, Obama was deporting 1,000 people a day because the idea was if you're here illegally, you're here illegally. And we have to let you go. Now, all of a sudden, it's turned into, okay, you're getting sent to a gulag. And then you saw what many of the others have said, right? In terms of actually making comparisons, heinous comparisons with 1930s Germany.
The way that I think if you're somebody who's really disturbed by things like alligator Alcatraz and feels like the targeting of certain migrants is making you really uncomfortable, call your lawmaker, because what I am seeing is an uptick in rhetoric against CBP and ICE enforcers who are dealing with this problem because they're being told by the President of the United States that they have to. And then this past week, there was a very dangerous attack on CBP officials in McAllen, Texas. Several people were injured. The perpetrator was actually neutralized. But that's also something we don't want to see, is an uptick in violence against law enforcement who are doing their jobs. So if you have a problem with this, talk to your lawmaker. That's the place to do it.
If they would do their jobs the way that I think they should be doing their jobs, which is unmasked without disappearing people from the streets, I don't think that the public would feel as endangered, because if someone approaches my loved one who's undocumented with a mask, how do I know that they're actual law enforcement? How do I know that they work for ICE? So that's one thing I'll say.
There's actually people who have impersonated ICE officers.
But do they show an ID?
They don't show IDs. They're not dressed appropriately. They're not flagged, and they're masked. And so in my world, if you mask yourself because you don't want to be seen, because there will be a reckoning for some of the actions that actual law enforcement have done. But I'll also say this: I don't want to hear anything ever in this country again about not being able to house people, not being able to no affordable housing, because they put this thing up in 8 days. 8 days. So where there is a will, there's a way. There is a way.
But it's also not where we would house people in America. We should want better conditions for undocumented migrants and Americans.
Well, I think this the big beautiful bill.
Look. This has gotten to the point where I think everybody can be in agreement that there's too much division. Again, I just go back to what the Democrats once said. I can quote Dianne Feinstein, the late Dianne Feinstein, who said, we're not going to become the welfare state for Mexico. We're just not. Or go back to Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or even Joe Biden or anyone in recent times. And they all said the same thing. You cannot have people coming here unchecked. We just can't do it. We can't afford it. And then at some point, I think some little light bulb went off in their head after Donald Trump, of course, came out and said, I'm going to fight this. And, think about what they were saying about Melania, et cetera. The difference is she came here legally. There's a difference between legal immigration and illegal immigration. There is, okay? How is it suddenly wrong for anybody to be against illegal immigration? I mean, you lost me, okay? And you're losing a lot of people. And I just think this is going to continue to be a losing story for all of you. And Donald Trump, he was asked, for example, what do you think about the Padilla bill that would require ICE agents to always wear not wear a mask, forbid them from wearing a mask. And he said, you know what he said? I really question these guys. I question how loyal they are to our country, because it feels as though they are on the other side.